There ain't no grave can hold my body down. There ain't no grave can hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna rise right out of the ground. There ain't no grave can hold my body down.
Hello, everyone. I'm Todd Wood, and I have the distinct pleasure and honor to be joined by Mr. Thomas Gabriel today. He's a musician, a singer, songwriter, and actor, and he's performed his music all around the country. He's been all around the world, and he also happens to be the eldest grandson of none other than Johnny Cash. So it is an honor to have you here, sir, and thank you so much for joining me. And how's your day going so far?
Well, I usually wake up about the crack of 10. So they wake up at the crack of dawn. Mine's around 10 o'clock. So I haven't been, it's still early for me. But so far, it's been good. Been going good.
Awesome. And before we get into a couple questions, I'd like to share with those of you who are watching that I didn't know about Thomas Gabriel until probably a year and a half ago. And it's because one of his videos popped up on my YouTube feed. And I said to myself, that guy's got a really cool beard. I'm gonna click this video, and I was like, man, this guy really has some talent. And so later on, we joined each other on Facebook, and I'm just honored to call you a friend. And thank you for your kindness and your warmth and how you treat people. It's amazing. And we'll get a little bit into that here in just a minute. I know you probably get asked the same questions probably all the time. And, I think that the difference is timing. Just like your video just happened to show up on my feed at that particular time. But, if you wait 5 minutes, it's going to roll on to somebody else. And so, this is why I think that your story is very, very important, not only for those who have already heard it, but for those who have yet to hear it. They might not know about you yet, but they should and probably are about to. I have a saying: you make the world a better place with the time you've been given. And we don't know how much time we've been given. I'm sure you probably agree with me on that philosophy, that we've got to make the most of it. And so I just wanted to throw that out before I started slinging some questions at you, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's start with your beginnings. Now, I know you were born in California. I think you were there for 2 years before you moved to the East Coast. And you were born and raised into a family where you now have a platform. And a good chance of having a great platform. Nobody chooses where they're born, what race they're born, what country they're born in, what family they're born into. But you had the good fortune of being born into a family that had a platform, and now you've got one of your own. And so, uh, I just would like to know just a little bit of your grandfather, Johnny Cash, his influence on you in your early years.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I was born in California. We came here. I think I was 3, and about 76, and we came and initially moved in with my grandpa because my mother was 16, but we moved here and lived with him for a little while, and then moved a mile away. And my mother went to work for him in his publishing company um, at that age, or really young. So, you know, I needed to. I wasn't school age yet. I needed to go somewhere, and grandparents are usually, next in line, and no different here. Excuse me. And so John Carter, my uncle, is obviously just 3 years older than me. So he had um, care all the time, for on the road, at home, and all that. So it was just kind of a natural way from, I just kind of uh, hung out with him and was watched the same way. So most of my time was spent either at my grandpa's house or on the road. Um, and then, school age came, and I went to the same school as John Carter. I went to a private Christian school, and we had a lot of time off. We'd be taking our books on the road and things like that. So my first memory of life, and I've said this before, but is Caesar's Palace. You know, I think because I remember vividly it's just the excess. Walking in and all the lights, the colors, the it was just. Of course, you're going to remember that. If you're not going to remember, if you're going to remember anything, I mean, it's going to be something like that. So there was a lot of excess. I was brought into planes, buses, hotels, and backstage, where everybody was treating my grandpa like royalty because So I kind of got. I grew up. It's kind of confusing, really. It's you grow up around all this excess and people treating you a certain way most of the time, and then I'd go back home and be with my mother, and that would be a much different setting. And then it's so growing up, I had a sense of, I think, an unhealthy sense of entitlement, and I think I know I did. you know, because you're treated like that. And so I think that I, well, also predisposed to alcohol and chemical abuse, but being growing up in the 70s and 80s, and then coming into this kind of confusing the existence of constant movement and everybody being kind of everybody. There's a lot of people, but they're not really paying attention to each other. They're paying attention to the workings of this traveling roadshow. So there wasn't a whole lot of supervision. There wasn't a whole lot of stability, and with a large sense of entitlement and a large sense, so it was, you're right, blessed to be born into the family. I've always seen myself as blessed, but at the same time, with it comes balance.
A price.
Yeah, the balance of which is, you've also got this other part of it that's very unhealthy to grow up in. It's very confusing, very unhealthy, and a lot of distraction.
Yeah, and you just touched on something that was going to be my next question. Is it true that your grandfather tried to protect you from the music business.
Yeah.
And can you give me a specific reason of how he did that? Did he try to get you away from like shows or get you shoved into the bus or
No, none of that.
how did
Like,
that happen?
I actually went on the road. I went on the road more there for a while. But so what happened was growing up in that, it'd be like if your father was owned a drugstore or a grocery store or whatever, was a farmer, you always just kind of see yourself in your grandpa's shoes or your father's shoes. And my father wasn't around. My grandpa pretty much was my father. And so I just always kind of didn't really think about it, I don't guess, but I just kind of assumed that that's music would be my trajectory. And so I started playing guitar. My grandpa showed me chords and everything. I started playing guitar around 11 years old and was writing songs even before then and started singing. And I so by junior high, I started a few bands. There were rock bands, metal bands, and started some bands and everything. And then around 19, 20 years old, uh, my grandfather put in his studio across from the house. And I asked him one day, I said, you mind if I take my band over there and play some tracks? I said, we've got a bunch of songs. I'd like to put them down. He said, yeah, that's fine. So I go over there and we got an engineer and went and did, I think about 6 or 7 songs, and they turned out really good. Actually, one of them is going to be on the new album from 1993 or 4 or whatever. But so when I took the recordings to him, apparently I had sent them also to my grandmother, Vivian, and she was very leery of music because of all that she had been through with him. And I think that she got in touch with him and was like, wait, I don't know what you're pushing him. Don't try to push him towards this at all. He needs to go to college. He needs to do this. He needs to do this, which I'd already been excused from college. But so I took him the cassette back then, took him the cassette of what we had done, and he listened to it, and he gave me, I was picturing him being, this is wonderful. Let's see what we can do. And, I figured that would be the next step. And it wasn't. She had talked to him and he pulled me aside. He said, well, let's talk about this. He said, look, music business is really hard, and it's this and this and this. And, it's a hard life. And, he kind of started down that trail, and he's like, there's a lot of competition and all this kind of thing. He said, and of course he was well aware of my chemical dependence. Like I said, I started around, well, I guess I didn't mention that, but I'd also started substances around 11 years old, like daily drinking and things like that around 11, 12 years old. And, everybody was well aware of it. So that worried him as well, because, those two things really don't mix. Well, nothing in that mix, but it's a long, we obviously know the story
Yeah.
of.
It almost sounds like he was trying to protect you from the life that
Yeah.
he had gone through and defeated, from what I've been able to research.
Yeah. So he got me, into police work. One of his, he had guards that were working on the police force, and he had one of them come talk to me. Next thing you know, I'm in the police academy, and I was a police officer for 8 years, and did really well, until once again substance abuse got in the way of that. But that's how he always did. But he would always finish with, "But come back to your music. Go do this. Go get this skill. Go get this behind under your belt, so you can have a backup plan, plan B, whatever. But come back to your music." that was, we had several talks that was the end of the discussion, was come back to the music. So, yeah.
Well, we're so glad you did.
It took a while. I did, yeah. I never really totally stepped away, but as far as putting forth any sort of effort, I mean, my biggest effort was always just chemicals being, so and with that goes a sense of, my low self-esteem and everything else. I mean, you might have an inflated ego, but underneath it all,
Well, and one of the things I wanted to share, if it's okay, is I'm a member of one of your private groups where we have a meeting once a week. If you're not on the road somewhere in Europe, or
yeah,
because sometimes your schedule is crazy, and it talks about life, and it's easy to put people on a celebrity pedestal. I've met quite a few celebrities in my life, and it's easy to do. But you are so transparent about everyday life. You recently talked about uh, losing your dog, and I know what that's like, and I know what it's like losing your dog and coming home to an empty house, and there is nothing worse than that. It is rough. Um, you talk about everything from um, getting used to your new glasses, and it's I find it therapeutic because it feels like we're just sitting in a living room hanging out, and it's therapeutic for me because I feel like I'm with my next door neighbor when we jump on these calls. And
yeah.
so, thank you for putting that up. But with all that said, do you plan on keeping that group small to an intimate size,
I did.
or expanding it out a little to where you might have a little more reach?
But,
You know, and there's no wrong answer because I could see an argument for both.
I think that I think it's good to, I've already got a growing platform. I'm about to have this release. I'm about to have um, some movie stuff going on. I've got lots going on, and I think it's important to have such a group that, for me, anyways, it's a matter of you don't have to always just be, uh, you know, being accessible to the right people is healthy. I think because connection is you can't put a price on that. I know what it's like to have no connection because, after police work, I was in prison twice and spent a lot of time alone. So I like having, you've got fans, people who just listen to your music, watch what you do, and they support you. And then you've got fans that want, are interested in the person and interested in uh, how this person ticks and all that kind of thing. And I'm interested in sharing that with certain people. I don't want to get on, if I wanted to do that, otherwise I'd get on Facebook or TikTok or whatever and just air all my stuff. But
Right.
being a connection to a smaller group, I think is kind of essential, not only for certain people who, you've got those you don't want in there. You've got those that God brings to you, or brings you to them, you know. But I think it's important to kind of keep a grounding platform too. I like that it's smaller. I like that every name I see that comes on there, I notice if there's a new one. I like
Right.
that.
And you greet the new ones.
I like that, and that makes me feel good because then I can talk to people that we've got, and you come to find out, like, just because of what I do or who I'm related to or where I've been or whatever, we're still on the same road every day. We still have the same trials, still have the same tribulations, still have the same traumas. We still have the same, you know, messed up family members or whatever we've got.
Yeah.
You know, but
If you don't have a messed up family, you're not normal, or your family's not normal, because that's more the norm.
yeah. So otherwise, it gets into a realm that everybody around you is either hired by you or hired to be around you, to basically tell you how great you are all the time, all this kind of stuff. You get in this I'm special phase. Like, and I noticed that, like, that's easy for me to do when I was drinking. I'd be on the road, and everybody I could say anything I wanted, and I didn't care. But it was a really sick way of being. And I think to stay grounded by being able to say, in a smaller group, being able to say, what your life is like, and just kind of air that out, and get response, hear how everybody else has got something in common with you. You stay grounded on a level that is healthy.
I
Otherwise,
totally agree. My wife and I, we keep a very, very small circle of friends,
yeah,
like close friends. And then we've got a little bit of a larger group of church friends, but we don't have we don't have time for a whole lot of people. And I'm sure that you don't. And you know, you never know when somebody might have an ulterior motive in your position because they want to use you. And so you got to screen those folks carefully.
I've grown up around that. I've grown up seeing that, um, on a very personal level, with especially around my grandpa and all that, or people who just want to be your friend because of that, or people that. And one of the things I like about that group is some of these people have been in that group for a long time. You'll see the ones that'll kind of come in, they're there for a little bit, and then they leave, and then they're like, okay, well, this isn't for me. That's fine. That's the natural order of things. But to have people around you that, like, I can play some of my new songs to, and it's not putting it out there. It's still a group of people that are hopefully going to be honest with you, because they know that you you're honest. If you're honest, you get honesty back, what you put out there. So it's kind of like my own therapy session, really, in a way, because uh, I say things on there that I wouldn't say any other time. Or like you said, you go to church. Well, those church friends that's great and all, but you're still on that kind of a church mode. They don't really know you past that. You know what I mean? Unless you're friends on I go to church, the same place I go to church. I'm friends with them as well. But I see them on Sundays and Wednesdays if I'm in town, and we kind of have that realm, but we don't ever really cover anything else that's, you know, so it's very grounding for me. I know I went a long way around to explain that, but it's very grounding for me. I
Yeah,
enjoy
I
it.
heard one man put this very well once, and he said it's the theater of life. If you picture a movie theater, you've got your closest people in the front row, and then you've got your second row, third row, all the way to the back, and you prioritize those folks based off of what they are bringing to your life. And some people shouldn't even have a ticket. They need to be kicked out of
Totally.
your life and replaced by somebody else that can that
Make
can add to you. But you get to determine which row they sit in and how close that they sit to you.
yeah,
And I'll never forget that example. It just makes total sense. But moving right along, your albums, Long Way Home and Treehouse Sessions, um, man, I love them. They were great. They are still great. Um, I mean, I loved how you did the impromptu Treehouse Sessions, and you
We
wanted
did
to do one take. And
we did
hey,
all.
if we mess it up, we mess it up. We want to. And I love that part where um, I forget which. Um, was it John? He said, "I want you to sing this part, but I want you to sing it with a low growl."
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was good.
We
That
were
was
sitting.
really good. But just going back to "Long Way Home," you got three songs on there that sometimes it just sends chills down my spine, and it's 1974, which was the year I was born.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a year behind you. Everything must be sold and right side of the dirt. Um, your songwriting is amazing, and so with all that said, when is the new album gonna drop?
Well, that's what I'm wondering as well. So my first album was very low budget, and I was pretty well in charge of releasing it, promoting it, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was very, very, very green at the time. Treehouse Sessions, I did exactly the same. We just literally went in, like I said, one take on everything, kept it, and released it. I think the next week, very quietly. Um, but this one here is much different. This one's a much, much bigger. Um, well, it's a much bigger project. First of all, it's got uh, many more players. It's got a way bigger budget, and of course, it's produced by Rodney Crowell, not myself. It's a much different project. So uh, turns out we were going to try to release it this past, I think it was January, and all of a sudden some projects came up, and we're like, well, hold on a second. If we kind of wait and kind of tie it in with these other projects, that'll probably be better. Um, so there's been several times when we've done, I think this is the time. No, not yet. No, not yet. So to put out promo first, uh, I would guess, and I'm probably going to be wrong again, but I would guess by spring, I would say, um, and which is putting it a year and a half later than what it was going to be. But I would say by spring it would be released. I do think that
We're
they're,
waiting, and we'll all be celebrating the day that comes out.
yeah, me too. It's going to be some other singles released, not on the album first. So there's
Okay,
singles dropping soon.
good. That way we'll get a little taste of the pie
Yeah.
before the whole thing gets here. Um, I've played your songs for quite a few people. And I've asked them, all right, who's this? And I know you probably know what I'm about to say. And I say, that's Johnny Cash. And then I show them who you are. I said, no, it's his grandson.
Yeah.
And they've all given positive feedback. And several of them have told me, well, when I get home, I'm going to go buy his albums. So I hope I've shoved a little money your
Me too.
way. But one guy even said to me, uh, "It's almost like Johnny never left us when you're singing his stuff, because I know you have your style, and when you sing your grandfather's uh, stuff, you do it, uh, you do it right, because you're your own person, you're your own artist, And, you know, at least for me, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with this, we don't want you to be Johnny Cash. You
Yeah.
know, we want you to be Thomas Gabriel. You just happen to be able to flip into both
Yeah. Genetics is
at
fun
any
thing.
time you want.
I
You know, I still have an old record right here,
yeah, it's a good one too.
1977.
Yeah, got that one.
But
Well, the thing about it is that's a good point. I do enjoy that though. A lot of people don't get it. A lot of people think that I'm either trying to be him or whatever, which is ridiculous. If you kind of look into me, you know that that's really not the case. But one of the things I do enjoy is I'll notice at shows I usually have three generations in the crowd, and one of them is usually kind of the older end of the crowd are there to hear him basically, without sound, you know.
and they
But
can close their eyes and they can't tell the difference.
there's a lot of people that will come in and on certain songs, and I'll notice like on my songs, that's not the case, and that's great. But I'll notice on certain songs, I will look out, see a lot of eyes closed, and or people crying, or people, that hey, you brought back, they're missing their loved ones, or they're missing their childhood, or they're trying to, stay in touch with feelings of, you know, of their past, much like I am by
I,
singing
I
them.
know that we all appreciate you preserving not only his legacy, but for those who can close their eyes and feel like he's still here, that's a
Yeah.
big deal for them.
Keep
But
thinking,
we also get Thomas Gabriel at the same time.
yeah.
And so you've got a unique gift in that. And I think that is absolutely great. And you're not living in his shadow. You're your own person. You're your own artist. You get to choose when to flip the switch. And I love your original music. Um, arguably as much as I do your grandfather's.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to let you know that. And the people that I've played your music to, um, I'm just getting the exact same reaction. And so, you know, I just want to see you get as big as you want to get. And so, anytime that we can share uh, things like this with other people,
Yeah.
um, even if it just comes across as a random YouTube algorithm that just happened to put you on my phone one day. Who's this guy? Cool beard. Let me click it. I hope I've driven some traction your way, but you've also said that your music can be dark at times, and I know you made some videos with your first album. I thought the videos were great. Um, and when you say you didn't know what you were doing, well, you had me fooled. Uh, but I assume that that bit of darkness is because maybe you're trying to hit life's struggles head on without apology. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I find that therapeutic as well. I, I I just find that therapeutic when you can just be real and hit things as they are, not sugarcoat it.
I think there's a need for it. I call it dark country. But I think there's a need for it. It's a if everything you put out there is about fun and back roads and trailer parks and girls and stuff like that. Um, that's part of life. It's part of it, but there's a whole other part that we have to endure. We have to struggle. We have to make ends meet. We have to go through our own demons at times. Our own struggles. And I kind of only I won't say only, but that's the part that's kind of mine that I've taken on, not on purpose, but it's just because it's what I know. So, I think that with me, and it was funny because I went recently had a writers round, and I'd never done a writers round before, and it was me and two other artists, and they were the one in the middle was kind of a little bit of both. The one on the end was the happy uh party country songs and things like that. And then and it was funny because we would do it in a line, and he would have his and it would come back to me, and it would be something like Sell or something like Right Side of the Dirt or whatever. And it would kind of balance out this mood. You could see the crowd shift, and it was kind of going back and forth, kind of teetering. And that's what really showed me in real time, like, yes, there's a need to stay in touch with this. There's a need to have touch with this. And that's what life is balance. So I've got
Exactly.
my music has a place, but it's a certain place. It's a very specific place.
And do you see it staying strictly there, or do you see it maybe experimenting here and there with creating maybe something that doesn't exist anymore, where it's blended with something else? There's
So this album coming out has some of everything. Uh,
right.
it's got a lot more upbeat than my last one, obviously. Um, it's also got some that are darker than my last album. But
Yeah, and I like dark music, but also I got to admit I love stuff like when Kenny Chesney got with Jimmy Buffett. I mean, and you go to the beach. I mean, who, especially
here's
when you're in Key West, when you hear it.
yeah. Well, here's the difference. Um, I can't write that way.
Right.
I write when I'm either kind of melancholy or when I'm depressed or when I'm um, reflecting on things or when I'm working through something. When I'm, personally, I tend to go long spans. If things are going right,
Mhm.
I'll put it that I will not write near as much. So my writing is pretty well all dark just because of that's what mood I find it easier to write in, or find it where my soul really wants to write. Um, so I just don't write a whole lot of upbeat stuff. If I'm going to do upbeat songs, which there's obviously I enjoy doing too, um, then usually those aren't ones I've written. There's ones I'm performing. Somebody else has written, and
Right.
those other writers on this album besides myself. Well, actually, the only two writers on this album, well, there's three, if you because of one song, but Rodney Crowell, myself, and Mike Campbell of Tom Petty um, and the Heartbreakers. So there's only three writers on this entire new album.
Can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
Well, are you aware of the positivity and healing that you bring to people? I know that you're going to stay humble because you've been through so much. I know you're going to stay humble, but are you really aware of the positivity and healing and the things that you write that maybe that you'll post that maybe only a certain portion of the public can read, uh, how amazing that stuff is. I mean, are you going to put this in some sort of memoir book
Yeah,
or something like that? Because
the
it
money is
be
or
preserved.
be a book. There's going to be a book series of the money motivations. That's already in the works. So I'm excited about that. Um, but to answer your first question, I did not realize actually. I all I ever asked for, um, like before I go on stage, I've got the same prayer. Before I record, I have the same prayer. You know, it's always let me at least let somebody hear something they need to hear. Let me let me be the catalyst to somebody hearing something they need to hear. That's part of it. But I didn't realize until I started getting a lot more feedback from people that I never expected to get feedback from. A large percentage of it is our parents, especially mothers of uh, that have had children that have died of substance abuse. A lot are uh, people that their loved ones have died of suicide. I have a lot of those, which I'm really grateful for because um, that it's not something I ever uh, targeted on purpose necessarily, but I see where if it can help someone, then it's elating. Um, I had a trip to it was a tour in Ireland where people signed up for a bus tour. So basically, the whole trip we went to we played in castles, and a small group of people went with. So they took like a vacation of sorts with me, and I had no idea, but I got there the first night, and we meet up at this restaurant, and we're at this long table, and I start looking around, and I figured I would recognize some of these people. You know, they would be like the fans that I would be familiar with, and most of them were. And and then one lady, so I'm sitting across the table from her, and she goes, I got to be honest with you. She said, I've never heard your music. I said, really? She said, I've just read your Monday Motivations. She said, that's why I'm here. And that floored me. That felt so good. That just like, um, to reach people with music is one thing. I love that. And that's why I'm here. But I think the reason why I'm still living after the suicide attempts, after the ODs, after flatlining, after being stabbed in the chest, after my heart surgery, after all these things, I think the reason I'm still living is is still being able to reach people that need to hear certain things from somebody who's been there. And that's all I ask, really. Then it's not in vain. All these times that it should have been me, or it should have been, why did this person have to go, but why didn't that happen to me? I think that makes it make sense. And if I save anybody from that, then it's all worth it. That's absolutely.
Well, I can tell you, sir, that you are having a great impact on the world. And however big of an impact that God has planned for you, um, I know that you'll be ready for it and that you will keep the course. And it's only going to get better from here. It's only going to go up and up and up. And once your work is finished, I am confident that you're going to hear, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant,"
Thank you.
and because you are a blessing to the world.
Thank you.
And one just real last quick question I have for you: who's the most fascinating person you've ever met?
I, without being biased,
Yeah.
I would say probably my grandpa. He had something about him that um, I don't care how familiar you got with him or what side you saw of him. He always had a level of wisdom uh, that I never really could understand at the time.
Well, I so appreciate your time,
Well, thank you.
Thomas. You're awesome. Glad to have you in my life. And if there's anything I can do to help you, you just give me a holler, and be happy to help. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right,
Well,
you have a wonderful day, and we will be talking to you soon.
all right. Thank you, Todd.
All right, take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.
Took a minute for the truth to finally come. There's nothing finished now that I'm in love. Put me back together